Hey everybody, this is Pounding Rocks, and we're working on Double Dare XL here, and I'm doing a little bit of swapping some parts around here, and now that I've got a little bit of time to work on it at my own pace without having to be rushed at the other shop, which I'm not ragging on the other shop. It was awesome. We got this much done to the truck, and I couldn't have done it without the help of everybody else, so it's definitely something that's totally awesome. But this part of the project is really kind of like the not fun part of the project. It's all the fine tuning, wiring, and everything. So I figured I'd go over kind of some of the things that I've discovered, figured out, and swapped over here. The first thing that I discovered that was a problem that might have caused some of my electrical issues was this fusible link right here. Yeah, it kind of fell apart, and the pin, the pin in here was pulled out, so it wasn't really making contact with anything. And this connector here is just slid right off the end of it. So, hang on one second. Benny, get in here. Come here. So, of course, the dog's waiting until I start making a video to do this. Only Benny's outside right now, so I replaced that fusible link with a spare because I always grab them when I'm at the junkyard, and it kind of paid off in the end here. So we'll see if that makes a world of difference. I bet it does, because as I said, half the dashboard didn't have power, and as you can see here, I kind of, because the battery's been relocated to the back of the truck, I have stretched the battery cable all the way from the back all the way up to this power point. This is a secondary cable. So the main, this blue cable goes to the starter. This red cable is a 4-gauge auxiliary cable that goes to a 150 amp resettable breaker, and the fusible links are attached to that. So all the power for the cab and all the auxiliary stuff is coming through here. The starter is directly hooked up to the battery. And over here, to get it to crank, we jumpered the inhibitor relay once again, because this is an automatic ECM. Jumped the inhibitor relay, and that allowed it to crank without it. I don't even have the park neutral switch attached to this truck anymore. And then you saw in the video back in May, it cranks, it starts, runs like crap. It's probably bad gas that it's got right now, but runs like crap for 15 seconds and then shuts off. The reason I think it's shutting off is because there's so much stuff here that still is not hooked up. It's just the O2 sensor is just kind of sitting here. I've got to weld in a bung and put it in place, and that'll help. The throttle position sensor has been a point of issue, just because this is a VG33ER TPS, and we're still running a VG30 computer, so there is a difference. And from my understanding, from what people have said online, it can be adjusted out so it knows what's going on. We'll find and see. So there's that. Other things that are not fully hooked up is the auxiliary air control valve, which is something that I actually did a little research on, and here's what I found out. So here's the bottom of a VG30 intake manifold. You can see the EGR valve here. You can see the idle air control. This is actually this idle bump valve, like for if you got air conditioning or whatever or whatnot. It bumps the idle up a little bit so you don't stall out when you're using your power steering or your AC. And right here is where the auxiliary air control motor would mount, this 4-bolt section right here. Well, if you look here, this is the bottom of a VG33ER air intake tube, and it's very different. Obviously, this is upper intake, this is an upper intake, this is the part that comes right off of the blower. That's this piece right here, this long snaking tube right here. So we're looking at the bottom side of that. Luckily I have a spare. I was experimenting with the air control motor here. This is the air control motor off of VG33ER. You can see it's a 4-bolt mount, and it's got a 2-pin plug. It's a brown plug, and it has some kind of spring-loaded motor here. I'm not going to use this. The VG33 or the VG30 computer cannot control this part, and you'd have to swap out the plugs. And from my understanding, this is wired backwards. So when the VG30 gives it a command, it'll do the exact opposite than what the VG30 thinks it's going to do. So that's my understanding, is it's wired opposite. You can pull it apart and do whatever you got to do to it, or you can just grab this one off of VG30, and the pin connector's already the old style connector. It mounts exactly the same. The only difference is that the air tube here is routed slightly different. This one curves around and then goes underneath. This one just comes out and goes straight up. But if you look here underneath, if you look very closely, you can see that there's a clear shot to use just an air hose to come out where the spark plugs are. So you could come out here and go right to the air intake tube. It's supposed to mount to the air cleaner assembly and draw clean air in. And so you don't have to change out the plug. There's the plug for it. You don't have to cut the plug or change out the plug to use this. And the VG33ER can control this motor. So I'm going to give it a shot. On paper, it sounds correct. I mean, really, it's the same means to an end. You're adding air to bump up the idle, but they're wired opposite. So I want the VG30 computer to see as many familiar faces as it can on this, because really the only difference is the blower. And as long as it understands that the injectors are going to run rich, and it's going to have, all that, it should be just fine. I mean, I'm really losing my words here, but it should be just fine to run this as a low compression or a lower compression engine with a blower on top. And it doesn't even know it has a blower. It doesn't care. It's too stupid to realize it. So that's today's project, was doing a little bit of experimentation. And I gotta say that sometimes I'm a lucky man. Most of the time I'm not, but today I'm a lucky man. So I'm going around. I swear I had a gasket for one of these. It's a 4-bolt gasket. Obviously, it's like in the same shape as this thing. Swear I had one, but damned if I know where I'm going to find it in all of this. And there's a whole second floor of parts here, and it could take me a long time to find it. So I went ahead and I was going to order a gasket from the dealer and just say, screw it, we'll put a gasket on it. But as I was looking for something else, I was looking for that fusible link. As I was looking for that fusible link, lo and behold, a gasket was just sitting out in one of the boxes, just out in the open. Just like, hey, look at me, this is what you need, right? And I'm just like, holy moly. There was like a 1 in a million chance of me being able to find this gasket here. And there it is. And it blew me away. So I was actually able to assemble it. I'm not going to tighten any of this stuff down for the moment, because there's a few things in the back that I still have to address. You might as well get a full heads up on where we're at here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. You might be able to see this. If you look way down here, way down in there, there is a pipe nipple that's got coolant, and that comes up and it goes to this coolant port right here where the bleeder valve is. So in order to bleed the system, I have to have coolant come up to this point, and then it goes down underneath this manifold. Goes underneath this manifold to the this is like a coolant controlled idle you know, like a stepper kind of motor thing. So when the coolant's, when it's cold, this is sticking out, and when it warms up, it closes, and it bumps the oil down just based on the coolant temperature. So we got that. There's that piece, and I am definitely an idiot. I'll close the video with how stupid I am. I was looking at all the codes that I had written down, and I didn't even realize that I was pulling the codes incorrectly out of this computer. So I'm just a total moron. I really am. So like, I was looking at the code list, and I didn't even figure this out. Here I am sitting here looking at the codes going, oh, 4 flashes is 1 flash is 1. So I was writing down these codes, 41, 23, 45. Not even realizing that when you look at it, it was only flashing the modes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, and just cycling around over and over and over again. That's not how you do it. You turn the knob all the way to the right. You wait till it cycles through till you get to mode 3, so it flashed 3 times. And as soon as it flashes 3 times, you turn the knob all the way back, you know, all the way back to the left, all counterclockwise. And then you sit there and wait patiently for it to read codes. And I did that, and I have to laugh though, because it's giving me a code 55, which means all clear, everything's good. And we know for a fact that not everything is good on this thing. There's missing sensors and whatnot on it, so I have to run it, or I have to at least crank it and see if we can get this thing sorted out. But I'm going to leave you guys with that. That's the extent of what we've done so far. I definitely have troubleshot something that was a potential problem in the fact that this fusible link was falling apart and is of no value to me anymore. It was falling apart. It just pulled apart on me. So that might explain some of it. I'm not going to power it tonight. I'm just going to throw a cover on the motor, and it's supposed to get cold here, so videos might become sporadic, but if I get a chance to be able to get out here and continue working on it, I definitely will. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, and happy Turkey Day, happy Thanksgiving if I don't post a video before then. Take care, stay warm.